Video 3 of session C is going to be on the edge around steamers. So video 1, we looked at each way betting. In video 2, pricing things up from first principle. And in video 3, steamers. So I have an Excel file here I'm just going to skip over to where I've got a little description. Now, this is a time series graph with some odds on the y-axis, time on the x-axis. And generally, odds will do one of three things. They will stay the same between now and kickoff, or they will increase, or they will decrease. So if odds decrease, that is known as a steamer. If odds increase, that is known as a drifter. In this graph, whatever time this is now, the odds were 5.0, and maybe kickoff or sometime later, the odds have come into 2.0. This will generally happen when smart or syndicated money comes in for a particular selection. So if enough people start taking money on a football team or on a horse, then the odds will come down on the exchange. The bookmaker will cut the odds, and generally the odds will start to reduce and steam in. It is indicative of somebody somewhere taking a position that they think that these are value prices at 5, 4.5, 4, 3.5. The price wouldn't keep coming down if people didn't keep thinking that they were still getting value on the way down. And the same is true in the opposite direction. If money isn't coming in, or if prices are being laid more than they are being backed, then they will drift and the odds will be pushed out on the exchange. And you would hope that the odds are pushed out at the bookmaker. They were keeping the same over round. It's often true that the bookmaker is a lot quicker to cut odds than they are to push odds out. Here we have a couple of price history graphs on Betfair from Foslas on the 23rd of January. Here we have Scarpard. Now, Scarpard was trading up at 30 and then steamed in as money came in to 25, to 20, to 15. Of course, the steam depends on what time you start and what time you finish. If you want to go from the beginning to the middle of the graph, you could argue that that has steamed from 25 or 30 down to 15. If you want to go from the middle of the graph, whatever time this is, to the end, you could argue that that is a drift where it started at 15 and it finished at 20. So there is no definitive start and end time for benchmarking a steam or a drift. It's subjective. It could be anything from when the market opens to any point between then and kickoff that you want to start the benchmarking process. This is the opposite going on with no tackle here, where it opened at 6 and was obviously laid way more than it was backed, drifted all the way to 16 here. And again, the drift depends on where you start and end the graph. If you go from the start and the end, that's a drift of 6 to 12. But actually, if you start the graph here, it's a steam from 16 to 12. So closing line value is very closely related to steamers and drifters. So closing line is the line or the odds of a game when the market for a game closes, generally at kickoff or the start of a horse race. Closing line value is simply a comparison between the line or the odds that your bet was placed and the closing line. The game in professional, advantage play and value betting is to be beating the closing line, therefore taking positive closing line value on average. You can't take it every time. Nobody's got a crystal ball. If you could take value over the closing line 100% of the time, then all you would need to do is back at the exchange, lay at the closing line, and you would have infinite pounds. It cannot be done every time. But if you find that you're taking a price and on average the closing line is a higher price than the price that you took, that very well may be indicative that your strategy isn't working, certainly not working as well as it should be. And the opposite is true. If you're taking a price or some odds and that you're beating the closing line, then you're getting positive closing line value, not negative closing line value, and you should, in theory, be winning in the long term. You would be, in theory, winning over infinite bets. So if we're looking at the closing line here we have a steamer in blue going from 6 to 2, 5 to 1 to evens, and here we have a drifter going from evens up to 5 to 1. Now, here's why steamers are more attractive than drifters. Obviously, at the beginning here, if we take 5 to 1, and by kickoff we've got 2.0, then the 5 to 1 beats the closing line, and we should have a long-term positive expectancy bet. And the opposite is true. If we're taking evens and it goes off at 5 to 1, 6.0, then this should be a long-term negative expectation bet. It could still win, and you double your money, or you get the same amount as your stake back as profit at evens. But that, just because a bet wins doesn't mean that it's a good long-term proposition. And again, this bet could lose. But if you take 5 to 1 all the time on bets that go off at evens, you will be profitable in the long run, because the theory is that the closing line is a more accurate indicator of the fair odds. So if the fair odds really are 2.0, that's a coin flip. You're getting 5 to 1 on what is a coin flip. And so, of course, in the long run, you're going to be winning because you're beating the closing line. What if you place your bet here at this time, right in the middle of the time series? Well, that's 4.0, 3 to 1 on the steamer, and it's 4.0, 3 to 1 on the drifter. You're placing the same bet at the same odds, but the drifter goes off at 5 to 1, the steamer goes off at even money. Both of these are at 3 to 1, but one of them could be argued to be a good price. One of them could be argued to be a bad price. The steamer continues to steam. After this point, the drifter continues to drift. And so whilst they're both the same price, the steamer is the more attractive proposition because it is beating the closing line. So the idea about steamers over drifters is that if you're betting on a steamer, you're piggybacking on smart and syndicated money. Now, obviously, it needs to start steaming before you can notice that it is a steamer. And if you get in here, you are late to the game. There will be some people that argue that they want to be these guys, the guys that started the steam, the guys that went at 5 to 1, the guys that got in at 4 to 1. Well, that's all very well and good. But in horse racing, unless you have connections or you're part of a very large syndication in football, you're not going to be the person that affects the beginning of the steam. It is still, however, possible to get in at this point by piggybacking on top of syndicated and smart money and identifying steamers and betting on the steamers that are coming in. It's borrowing other people's information. It's like in football, you can't be an expert on the under-17s team in Portugal, but somebody is, and somebody knows that that 17-year-old striker has been put in the first team, and he's such a good player that he's going to have an effect on the probability of that particular team winning the match. Well, you can't know that. You can't have that knowledge. Nobody can about every football team in Europe. But someone knew it up here. They started betting on it. We found out about it in the middle here. We got the 3 to 1. The bet goes off at evens. We've still got a positive expectation bet. Let's apply some principle to this. I'm going to look at football coupons at bookiebashing.net. We have a blog here in latest news. And before I get to the blog, I'm just going to open up the coupons tracker. Now, the coupons tracker looks at shop football coupons at William Hill, Betfred, and independent shops. And we look at all these different coupons from to win both halves, team to score both halves, win to nil, team to score 3 or more goals, half-time, match winner and 2 or more goals. And this is just at William Hill in the on a random Wednesday in January. And we've got more coupons at Betfred and independent shops. If I just open one of these up, team to score 2 or more goals. Brisbane Raw are 2.38 on the coupon. We make fair odds 2.37. Den Bosch 2.0 1.99, Cagliari in the Serie A 2.0 1.99. Kickoff is in a few days' time for a lot of these, so there's plenty of time for more bets to steam in. The EV to rise. Generally, all of these teams and all of these coupons are priced up at about 91% EV. And it's only after they start to steam when they get to 96, 97, 98, 99 and 100% EV. So the theory across all of these coupons is to bet on the top 7 steamers, maybe the top 5, maybe the top 6, maybe the top 7 steamers of every coupon, and jump on smart money. These are the teams: Cagliari, Den Bosch, Brisbane, Dortmund, Atlas, Maastricht. These are the teams where syndicated money and smart money has decided that the price was a little bit high when the coupon went up, and it's now the fair odds are shorter. So we can piggyback on this smart money, on these steamers, because that's what they are. These won't be drifters. The drifters will be at the bottom of the coupon. The Barcelonas. These are the steamers at the top of the coupon when ranked by EV. We've been doing coupons for a number of years at Bookie-bashing. This is the 2018-19 season. I've got a little bit of background of what we've just been talking about in this blog, and there's some theory here about the closing line odds and if the team steams in between 5 and 10% and how much profit would be made. But we tried to make 100,000 betting on football coupons in the 2018-19 season. A lot of it comes down to not just teams winning, but all the teams winning at the same time. That's where the magic comes in. And I think betting 40, 50 coupons a month, we would expect maybe 7, 8, possibly even 9 losing months over the year. 3, 4 winning months, but the winning months are where all the teams won at the same time, therefore compounding the value if we're putting these teams into trebles in coupons. And compounding the value, I mean, taking the singles is fine, but putting these teams into trebles, into quadruples, really compounds the EV. You create wine out of water. The July to January, when we were about 70k up, we had 7 profitable months, but 1, 2, 3, 4 were pretty much zero. And all the profit came out of 3 months. And it's quite common to see a betting profile like that with coupons. And this is basically just betting on steamers. We have other trackers at Bookie-bashing. We have a bet tracker, we have a horse racing tracker, we have a golf tracker, we have an early payout tracker, and all of these factor in the concept of steamers. They all have bets where when they were priced up, they would have been roughly minus 10% EV. And as they come into positive expectation, it's because the price is being driven down. And when larger prices and big prices are available elsewhere, they become attractive propositions. So the horse racing tracker, when we see these horses up at the high end of the EV, it could be because we're getting each way value and the race composition is such that some of these horses just happen to be really good value in the places. But there's also a combination of that and the fact that they're steamers. Also in the golf tracker, when we see Tyler Duncan and Adam Svensson at the top here, again, a lot of this will be because they were priced up with each way value, but also a lot of it is we see empirical data and empirical information that shows that early in the week, syndicated, smart money, big tipsters will come out, and when they say an Adam Svensson is good value, he may be negative EV on our tracker. And by the nature of the fact that people are starting to bet on him, smart and syndicated money is betting on him, he steams up in EV. His fair odds come smashing down. And by proxy, not by design, our trackers are therefore highlighting steamers, smart money, syndicated money as selections with higher EV. And we are then able to take advantage using these live trackers and bet on steamers, which hopefully, on average, will be beating the closing line. Certainly, they have more of a chance of being successful than betting the other way and betting on drifters. Arguably, if a bet was 101% EV, but a few hours ago it was 120% EV and it was coming down. That may be a less attractive proposition than a bet that's 100% EV, that is smaller EV, but a couple of hours ago was 90%, because one of them is steaming in and one of them is drifting.